I'm Michelle Kennedy, and this is Real Quick, a podcast featuring an essay every day. I recently had the opportunity to visit the Algonquin Hotel in New York City. There are some photos on my website and my Insta, so definitely check them out. I wrote a little bit about it in a previous episode, so definitely check back and take a look at the one that has the Algonquin Hotel as the podcast cover. In addition to Dorothy Parker and the other roundtable Algonquinites, Robert Benchley was the editor of Vanity Fair before he became a founding editor of The New Yorker. He was a graduate of Harvard. He held a variety of jobs in New York City before becoming the managing editor of Vanity Fair. He worked with Robert Sherwood and Dorothy Parker until January 1920, when both Sherwood and Benchley resigned to protest the firing of Dorothy Parker from Vanity Fair. About this time, Benchley, Parker, and other wits of the Algonquin Roundtable, which its members referred to as the Vicious Circle, began their celebrated lunchtime meetings at Manhattan's Algonquin Hotel. Again, the pictures are really cool. Check them out. Many critics consider his early writing his best, but Benchley himself said in 1943, quote, "It took me 15 years to discover I had no talent for writing, but I couldn't give it up because by that time I was too famous," unquote. Nevertheless, his best writing revealed a humanity, tolerance, and wisdom, according to Donald Ogden Stewart, that were virtually unsurpassed. In addition to Stewart, Benchley's admirers included humorist E.B. White and James Thurber, who we will be listening to in later episodes. Please enjoy today's essay written by Robert Benchley, entitled How to Be a Spectator at Spring Planting. If you would like to contribute a piece to Real Quick, please submit it to writermisha1313@gmail.com. And if you would like to contact us, you can go to our website, mishkennedy.com, and check out the Real Quick podcast site there. How to Be a Spectator at Spring Planting by Robert Benchley. The danger in watching gardening, as in watching many other sports, is that you may be drawn into it yourself. This you must fight against. Your sinecure standing depends on a rigid abstinence from any of the work itself. Once you stoop over to hold one end of a string for a groaning planter, once you lift one shovel full of earth or toss out one stone, you become a worker. And a worker is an abomination in the eyes of the true garden watcher. A fence is therefore a great help. You may take up your position on the other side of the fence from the garden and lean heavily against it, smoking a pipe, or you may even sit on it. Anything, so long as you are out of helping distance and yet near enough so that the worker will be within easy range of your voice. You ought to be able to point a great deal also. There is much to be watched during the early stages of garden preparation. Nothing is so satisfying as to lean ruminatingly against a fence and observe the slow, rhythmic swing of the digger's back, or hear the repeated scraping of the shovel edge against some buried rock. It sometimes is a help to the digger to sing a chanty just to give him the beat, and then sometimes it is not. He will tell you, in case he doesn't need it. There is always a great deal for the watcher to do in the nature of comment on the soil. This is especially true if it is a new garden or has never been cultivated before by the present owner. The idea is to keep the owner from becoming too sanguine over the prospects. "That soil looks pretty clayey," is a good thing to say. It is hard to say, clearly, too. You had better practice it before trying it out on the gardener. "I don't think that you'll have much luck with potatoes and that kind of earth," is another helpful approach. It is even better to go at it the other way, finding out first what the owner expects to plant. It may be that he isn't going to plant any potatoes, and then there you are, stuck with a perfectly dandy prediction, which has no bearing on the case. It is time enough to pull it after he has told you that he expects to plant peas, beans, beets, and corn. Then you can interrupt him and say, "Corn?" incredulously. "You don't expect to get any corn in that soil, do you? Don't you know that corn requires a large percentage of bicarbonate of soda in the soil? And I don't think, from the looks, that there is an ounce of soda bicarb in your whole plot. Even if the corn does come up, it will be so tough you can't eat it." Then you can laugh and call out to a neighbor or even to the man's wife, "Hey, what do you know? Steve here thinks he's going to get some corn up in this soil." The watcher will find plenty to do when the time comes to pick the stones out of the freshly turned over earth. It is his work to get upon a high place where he can survey the whole garden and detect the more obvious rocks. "Here's a big fellow over here, Steve," he may say, or "Just run your rake a little over in that corner. I'll bet you find a nest of them in there." Plymouth Rock is a funny thing to call any particularly offensive boulder, and is sure to get a laugh, especially if you kid the digger good-naturedly about being a pilgrim and landing on it. He may even give it to you to keep. Just as a matter of convenience for the worker, watchers have sometimes gone to the trouble of keeping count of the number of stones thrown out. This is done by shouting out the count after each stone has been tossed. It makes a sort of game of the thing, and in this spirit, the digger may be urged on to make a record. "That's 48, old man. Come on now, make her 50. Attaboy, 49. Only one more to go. We want 50. We want 50. We want 50. And not only stones will be found, but queer objects which have got themselves buried in the ground during the winter months and have become metamorphosed, so they are halfway between one thing and another. As the digger holds one of these objets dirt gingerly between his thumb and forefinger, the watcher has plenty of opportunity to shout out, "You'd better save that. It may come in handy someday. What is it, Eddie? Your old beard?" And funny cracks like that. Here is where it is going to be difficult to keep to your resolution about not helping. After the digging and stoning and turning over has been done, and the ground is all nice and soft and loamy, the idea of running a rake softly over the susceptible surface and leaving a beautiful, even design in its wake is almost too tempting to be withstood. The worker himself will do all that he can to make it hard for you. He will rake with evident delight much longer than is necessary, back and forth, across and back, cocking his head and surveying the pattern and fixing it up along the edges with a care which is nothing short of insulting, considering the fact that the whole thing has got to be mussed up again when the planting begins. If you feel that you can no longer stand it without offering to assist, get down from the fence and go into your own house and up to your own room. There, pray for strength. By the time you come down, the owner of the garden ought to have stopped raking and got started on the planting. Here, the watcher's task is almost entirely advisory. And for the first part of the planting, he should lie low and say nothing. Wait until the planter has got his rows marked out and has wobbled along on his knees, pressing the seeds into perhaps half the length of his first row, and then say, "Hey there, Charlie, you've got those rows going the wrong way." Charlie will say no, he hasn't. Then he will ask you what you mean the wrong way. "Why, you poor cod, you've got 'em running north and south. They ought to go east and west. The sun rises over there, doesn't it?" Charlie will attempt to deny this, but you must go right on. "And it comes on up behind that tree and over my roof and sits over there, doesn't it?" By this time, Charlie will be crying with rage. "Well, just as soon as your beans get up an inch or two, they're going to cast a shadow right down the whole row, and only those in front will ever get any sun. You can't grow things without sun, you know." If Charlie takes you seriously and starts in to rearrange his rows in the other direction, you might perhaps get down off the fence and go into the house. You have done enough. If he doesn't take you seriously, you surely had better go in. Well, thank you, Robert Benchley, for entertaining us on this Friday. Take a look, if you have a second, at the cover image for today's episode. It is a drawing from the New Yorker, and it is just basically the guy kind of over the fence giving orders to the gardener. Thank you for joining me today for another essay. If you would like to contribute a comment, a question, or an essay of your own, please visit me at mishkennedy.com. I would love to hear from you. I hope you enjoy this beautiful day, wherever and whenever you are. As my dad always said, aside from if I get up out of this chair and you may be a pain, but you're not a window, if you wake up on the right side of the dirt, you still have a shot at a good day. So there's still a shot. Take it.